The Luxembourg Army is the national military of Luxembourg. Luxembourg has no navy, as the country is landlocked, or air force, although it does have aircraft. The Luxembourg Army was integrated into the Force Publique, which included the gendarmerie and the police. The gendarmerie was merged into the Grand Ducal Police in 2000. The Army has been an all-volunteer force since 1967. It has a current strength of approximately 450 professional soldiers, 340 enlisted recruits and 100 civilians, and a total budget of $369 million. Or 0.9% of GDP. The army is under civilian control. The commander-in-chief is the Grand Duke. The professional head of the army is the Chief of Defense, currently Romain Mancinelli. He answers to the Civil Minister for Defense in the civilian government, currently Etienne Schneider. The Grand Duke and the Chief of Defense are the only generals, with colonels as Deputy Chief of Defense and head of the Military Training Center. Luxembourg has participated in the Eurocorps since 1994, has contributed troops to the UNPROFOR and IFOR missions in former Yugoslavia, and participates with a small contingent in the current NATO SFOR mission in Bosnia and Herzegovina. The Luxembourg Army is integrated into the multinational Beluga Force under Belgian command. Luxembourg troops have also deployed to Afghanistan to support ISAF. Luxembourg has financially supported international peacekeeping missions during the 1991 Gulf War, in Rwanda and, more recently, Albania. The Army also has participated in humanitarian relief missions such as setting up refugee camps for Kurds and providing emergency supplies to Albania. History. Militia. On 8 January 1817, the Grand Duke of Luxembourg, William I, published a constitutional law governing the organization of a militia, the main provisions of which were to remain in force until the militia was abolished in 1881. The law fixed the militia's strength at 3,000 men. Up until 1840, Luxembourg's militiamen served in units of the Royal Netherlands Army. Enlisted men served for 5 years, although only the first year consisted of active service, whereas for the subsequent 4 years they were only mobilized 3 times per year. Federal contingent. In 1839, William I became a party to the Treaty of London. The Grand Duchy lost its western, francophone territories to Belgium, now the province of Luxembourg. The militia lost half of its strength, due to the country having 160,000 inhabitants. Under the terms of the treaty, Luxembourg and the newly formed Duchy of Limburg, both members of the German Confederation, were together required to provide a federal contingent distributed among a light infantry battalion garrisoned in Echternach, a cavalry squadron in Dijkerk, and an artillery detachment in Ettelbruck. In 1846 the cavalry and artillery units were disbanded and the Luxembourg contingent was separated from the Limburg contingent. The establishment was now 2 light infantry battalions, the 1st Battalion in Echternach and the 2nd in Dijkerk, 2 reserve companies and a depot company. In 1866, the Austro-Prussian War resulted in the dissolution of the German Confederation. In the 1867 Treaty of London, Luxembourg was declared neutral in perpetuity, and its fortress was demolished over the following years in accordance with the treaty. The Prussian garrison left the fortress that year, and the 2 battalions of Luxembourgish light infantry entered the city of Luxembourg in September 1867. A new military organization was established in 1867 with 2 battalions known as the Corps des Chasseurs Luxembourgeois, with a total strength of 1,568 officers and men. In 1868 the contingent became 1 light infantry battalion of 4 companies, with a strength of 500 men. On 16 February 1881, the light infantry battalion was disbanded with the abolition of the militia-based system. Gendarmes and Volunteers Corps. On 16 February 1881 the Corps des Gendarmes et Volontaires was established. The corps comprised two companies, a company of gendarmes and a company of volunteers. In 1939 a corps of auxiliary volunteers was established and attached to the company of volunteers. Following the occupation of Luxembourg by Germany on 10 May 1940, recruitment for the company of volunteers continued until 4 December 1940 when they were moved to Weimar in Germany to be trained as German police. Luxembourg Battery. During World War II, the Luxembourg government in exile in London made agreements for a group of 70 Luxembourg volunteers to be assigned in 1944 to the artillery group of the 1st Belgian Infantry Brigade, commonly known as the Brigade Payen. This contingent was named the Luxembourg Battery. Initially it was under Belgian officers. Later, from August 1944, these were joined by Luxembourgish officers who had received officer training in Britain. The Luxembourg Battery was equipped with 4 Ordnance QF 25-pounder howitzers, each of which was named after the children of Grand Duchess Charlotte, Princesses Elizabeth, Marie Adelaide, Marie Gabrielle and Alix. Of the Luxembourgers, several of the NCOs and half of the troops had fought in North Africa in the French Foreign Legion. The rest were people who had escaped from Luxembourg, and young men who were evading forcible conscription into the Wehrmacht by fleeing to Britain. The Luxembourg unit landed in Normandy on 6 August 1944, 2 months after the D-Day landings. Post-liberation Luxembourg Army. In 1944 obligatory military service was introduced. In 1945, the Corps de la Garde Grand Ducal, garrisoned in the Saint-Esprit barracks in Luxembourg City, and the 1st and 2nd Infantry battalions were established, one in Walferdang and the other in Deux-Delange. The Luxembourg Army took charge of part of the French zone of occupation in Germany, the 2nd Battalion occupying part of the Bitburg district and a detachment from the 1st Battalion part of the Saarburg district. The 2nd Battalion remained in Bitburg until 1955. Luxembourg signed the Treaty of Brussels in March 1948, then the North Atlantic Treaty in 1949. In 1951 the Grand Ducal Guard was relocated to Walferdang and integrated with the Commandant des troops. The Grand Ducal Guard had special units for reconnaissance, anti-air warfare and radioic reconnaissance. From 1955 the Guard was organized into a headquarters company, a garrison platoon, a reconnaissance company and 2 training companies. In 1959 the Commandant des troops was disbanded and the Grand Ducal Guard was integrated into the Commandant de Territoire. The establishment was reduced to a single company, a corporals training school and a weapons platoon. In 1960 the Grand Ducal Guard was again reorganized into 4 platoons temporarily grouped into intervention and reinforcement detachments. In 1964 the Grand Ducal Guard was organized into AHQ, 3 platoons, a reinforcement platoon and the NCO school. On 28 February 1966 the Grand Ducal Guard was officially disbanded. Korean War. In 1950 17 countries, including Luxembourg, decided to send armed forces to assist the Republic of Korea. The Luxembourg contingent was incorporated into the Belgian United Nations Command, or the Korean Volunteer Corps. The Belgo-Luxembourgish battalion arrived in Korea in 1951 and was attached to the U.S. 3rd Infantry Division. 2 Luxembourg soldiers were killed and 17 were wounded in the war. The Belgo-Luxembourgish battalion was disbanded in 1955. Groupement Tactique Régimentaire and Home Command. In 1954 the Groupement Tactique Régimentaire was established as Luxembourg's contribution to NATO and consisted of 3 infantry battalions, an artillery battalion, a services company, a medical company, a transport company, a signals company, a company of engineers, a heavy mortar company, a reconnaissance company and a headquarters company. In addition to the GTR, the Army also included the Home Command, comprising a headquarters company, a company of military police, a movements and transportation company, a static guard battalion, and a mobile battalion. The GTR was disbanded in 1959. 1st Artillery Battalion in 1961. The 1st Artillery Battalion was placed at NATO's disposal. The battalion was organized as 3-gun batteries, each with 6 105 mm field howitzers from the former GTR Artillery Battalion, a HQ battery and a service battery. In 1963, the battalion was attached to the U.S. 8th Infantry Division. In 1966, the Grand Ducal Guard was disbanded and its taskings transferred to and performed by the Artillery Battalion. The 1st Artillery Battalion was disbanded in 1967. 1st Infantry Battalion compulsory military service was abolished in 1967 and the 1st Infantry Battalion was established, comprising a headquarters and services unit, 2 motorized infantry companies and a reconnaissance company with 2 recce platoons and an anti-tank platoon. From 1968 onwards it formed a part of NATO's Ace Mobile Force. In 1985 the battalion was replaced by a reinforced company consisting of an AMF company with 2 recce platoons and an anti-tank platoon, a forward air control team, a national support element for logistics and a medical support element. In 2002 the AMF was dissolved. Luxembourg Army Organization. The Army of Luxembourg is a battalion-sized formation with 4 separate companies which come under the control of the Centre Militaire, located in the Caserne Grand Duc Jean barracks on Herrenberg near the town of Dijkerke. Compagnie A is the first of 2 rifle companies and it forms the Luxembourg contingent of the Eurocorps and will normally be integrated into the Belgian contribution during operations. As such, it participates in Eurocorps contribution to the NATO response force and the EU battle groups. The company consists of a command element and 3 reconnaissance platoons of 4 sections each plus a command section. Each section is equipped with 2 armored M1114 HMMWV armed with a 50 M2 Browning machine gun. The command section has a MAN X40 truck in addition to its pair of HMMWVs. Reconversion Service Compagnie B was the educational unit of the Army, providing various educational courses for personnel to take in preparation for advancement. On May 19, 2011, Company B was redesignated as the Service de Reconversion with the mission to prepare volunteer soldiers for the return to civilian life. The service includes the L'École de l'Armée. In order to attend this school, a soldier must have at least 18 months of service. The school is divided into 2 sections. Level B. This is open for all soldiers at the end of their first 18 months of service. Soldiers follow 2 6-month periods of tuition in both general and military-based subjects prior to taking examinations. Upon gaining 75% pass marks, they can proceed to the next level. Level A. Level A is open to soldiers who have achieved the required passes at Level B, or who have gained the equivalent in civilian life prior to their enlistment. Soldiers do a single 6-month period of tuition in the same subjects as Level B, but for longer each week. Compagnie Commandant Instruction. The Compagnie Commandant Instruction is the main military training unit of the Luxembourg Army, with instruction given in basic soldiering, driving, physical training. The company is also responsible for the Army's elite sports section. This is for sportsmen who choose to join the Army. Following their basic training, they join the section de sports de élite de l'Armée. Compagnie D. Compagnie D is the second rifle company. It provided Luxembourg's contribution to NATO's ace mobile forces. The Luxembourg Reconnaissance Company. Luxembourg's participation in various UN, EU and NATO missions is drawn from Compagnie D. As a rifle company, it mirrors Compagnie A in organization, with a command element and 3 reconnaissance platoons. Special Forces of Luxembourg. Luxembourg has 2 reconnaissance platoons, declared to NATO's Allied Mobile Force. They are elite rather than special forces. The Grand Ducal Police has the Unité Spéciale de la Police. Appearance. Luxembourg military uniforms are similar to British uniforms. The military had dress, service or garrison, and field uniforms often worn with a black beret. Dress uniforms were worn mostly on formal occasions. The service uniform was worn for daily duty. Luxembourg Army uniforms consisted of service and field attire for both summer and winter, and a dress uniform and mess jacket for officers. The winter service dress uniform, of olive drab wool, consisted of a single-breasted coat having patched pockets with flaps, a khaki shirt and tie, and trousers that were usually cuffless. The summer uniform was similar but was made of light tan material. Combat uniforms in olive green, khaki drab, or woodland camouflage pattern, worn with the United States PASGT helmet, are virtually indistinguishable from those worn until the 1990s by the United States Army careers officers. Those who have completed high school will enter a special 13-week basic training in the Army as warrant officer, thus visiting the military officer school after for 5 years, before becoming a lieutenant in the Luxembourg Army. Aspiring officers are sent to the Belgian École Royale Militaire in Brussels, or the École Spéciale Militaire de Saint-Cyr in France. After the first 2 years at these schools, officer cadets receive the title of lieutenant. After leaving the above schools, the officer candidates become probationary officers for a period of 24 months. The probation period is composed of specialized military branch training at a school abroad, and practical service within one of the Army's units. If they succeed this probation, their appointment as lieutenants is made permanent. NCOs, those who have completed 5 years of high school and have served 4 months as voluntary soldier, will do a 9-month stage at the Infantry Training Department of the Belgian Army in Alain, before becoming a sergeant in the Luxembourg Army. Career corporals, those who haven't completed 5 years of high school may, after 3 years of service, become career corporals in the Luxembourg Army. If they pass physical and mental tests, they also have to pass a part of the NCO school in Belgium. Grades and insignia. Flag officers general, wearing a sabre, a command baton and a star. The rank of HRH, the Grand Duke, being head of state and commander-in-chief, is equivalent to a U.S. 4-star general, while the rank of the chief of staff is equivalent to a U.S. brigadier general, officers colonel, lieutenant colonel, major, captain, first lieutenant, lieutenant, officer cadet, non-commissioned officers adjutant major, adjutant chief, adjutant, chief sergeant, first sergeant, sergeant, career corporals, first chief corporal, first corporal, corporal, volunteer soldiers, first chief soldier, soldier first class, soldier. Equipment. Weapons: Glock 17 9x19 mm parabellum pistol, replaced Browning high-power pistol. Steyr August 5.56 x 45 mm NATO rifle. Can be fitted with UA 1116 or Kite night sight, replaced FN FAL rifle. Steyr August HBAR 5.56 x 45 mm NATO automatic rifle. FN Mag 7.62 x 51 mm NATO machine gun. can be fitted with kite night sight. M2 Browning machine guns, 50 BMG, 105 mm howitzer, for ceremonial purposes. M72 light anti-tank weapon, BGM-71 tow missiles. Replace the M40 recoilless rifle. Vehicles: Humvee vehicles, armored and unarmored, Jeep Wrangler Rubicon. 15. MB300D 4x4, MAN X40 trucks 4x4 and 6x6. Dingo 2 PRV. 45 armed with a 50 M2 Browning machine gun in a protector remote weapon system, and fitted with Thales observation system. Scania G488x8. 31 partially with ballistic protection system. Aircraft: NATO acquired 18 E3A AWACS aircraft, with a decision to register them in Luxembourg, because until that point Luxembourg did not have an air force. The first E3 was delivered in January 1982. Presently there are 17 E3s in the inventory, with one loss in July 1996. The aircraft are registered to Luxembourg, flown by NATO pilots, and based at the NATO airbase Geilenkirchen. Retired communications equipment: VHF, PR4G, TRC-9100, TRC-9200V, TRC-9300B and TRC-9500. Former equipment: rifles, carabiner 98K 7.92 x 57 mm is Ross rifle, 303 British pattern 1914 Enfield, 303 British Lee Enfield, 303 British FN model 1949. 3006 Springfield FN FAL 7.62 x 51 mm NATO. Pistols and revolvers: Webley revolver, 38-200 Browning high-power 9x19mm Parabellum M1911 pistol, 45 ACP. Submachine guns: Sten 9x19mm Parabellum Thompson submachine guns, 45 ACP. Solar submachine gun 9x19mm Parabellum Uzi 9x19mm Parabellum. Machine guns: Bren light machine guns, 303 British FN bar, 3006 Springfield Vickers machine guns, 303 British M1919 Browning machine guns, 3006 Springfield M60 machine gun, 7.62 x 51 mm NATO. Anti-tank boys anti-tank rifle, 55 boys PIAT bazooka M18 recoilless rifle M20 recoilless rifle M40 recoilless rifle 2-inch mortar ordnance ML 3-inch mortar M19 mortar M1 mortar M2 4.2-inch mortar L16 81 mm mortar. Notable soldiers: Emile Hamelius. Tessie Anthony, born 1985, is among the more prominent former members of Luxembourg's military. From March to July 2004 she took part in a mission in Mitrovica, former Yugoslavia, as part of KFOR, the NATO peacekeeping force in Kosovo. In 2006 she married Prince Louis of Luxembourg, with whom she has two sons, Princes Gabriel and Noah. She is styled Son Altesse Royal Princesse Tessie de Luxembourg.